Hello there. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Hi, Daisy.
Hey,
It's so
Shira.
exciting. We're back. I,
Yes.
I am so excited. Hi, Kay. Happy New Year. I am so excited. Welcome to Glass House, aligning what's embedded with what's seen. Many of you may remember us from our prior attempt at a podcast called Demystifying AI, Why Humans Are Still Valuable. We believe they still are. That hasn't changed. We're still here. We did a little bit of a pivot. So for those of you who have been with us before, we used to have a third musketeer, Darren. He has gone on to do lots of other things and can't commit to doing the podcast every week anymore. I'm calling it a podcast. I don't know what to call it. It's on other things, so it's not just LinkedIn Live.
It's a live chat.
It's a live chat. It's a live chat. He will be a guest. He will be joining us at some level. I also want to say, as we kick this all off in no particular order, we welcome all of you to be guests on our live chat. Today, it's just Daisy and me, but we would love, if this is of interest to you, we'd love to have you on and join us as we go week to week. We are committed to doing this every Wednesday, same time, same channel, same place. And not only can you find us here on LinkedIn, but you can also find us on our YouTube channels, which we've advertised throughout LinkedIn. So join us, please, every week. And if you miss it, it's okay. You can find it in the recorded versions on LinkedIn and on our YouTube channels and wherever your live chats are sold. I'm really excited, Daisy, to be here with you again. We had so much fun last time, and I'm really excited about what we're doing with Glass House, right? You and I have talked a lot over the last weeks about, and even months, I guess, about, what are we passionate about? What are we doing in our businesses? What are we seeing with our clients? What are we talking about all the time? And the term Glass House has a lot of meanings. Obviously, the most notable is, what is the saying? Those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a thing about the word should. Those of you who have been to my website, engage3p.com, and go to my blog know I wrote a whole blog post about it. That word is not good for me, but that's a whole other topic of conversation. But this was a little bit different and in a way kind of similar, right? Because let's face it, we're seeing everything now so much more than we ever did, right? We have visibility into things we never had before, not just through AI, but data in general, access to data in general, and AI just amplifies that to the nth degree. So the purpose of this podcast was say, we want to align what's embedded with what's seen, right? What are we telling the world who we are? And what are we really finding? And we're going to talk a lot about that today, kind of setting the foundation of what we're going to be talking about throughout this live chat series as we go on and on and on. So I am Shara Halixer. I guess we should do like a formal introduction for those of you who don't know us. I'm Shara Halixer. I am the founder and chief momentum officer of Engage 3P. I started the business in 2025 after many, many, many years, I like to say 900 years, in the business of people. I was in labor and employment. I was in HR as a chief people officer and HR officer. I was in HR technology, and I've been in change management. And all of it led to the same thing. What is it that causes friction in an organization? What is it that isn't working in an organization? And I like to say leaders tend to, unfortunately, try to solve for the loudest noise, which isn't necessarily the real problem. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I do. I help companies understand what really is causing the friction and ensure that they are not just embedding new technology, new people, new process into their organizations, but it's really getting embodied into the people who work there, because people still do work for companies, not changing. Daisy.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. All right. So I'm Daisy Watkins, founder CEO for DW Conceptz, and actually more on LumaPath.ai. Background has been in the staffing world, contingent staffing in particular. Started off with the general staffing world, worked with big organizations like Universal Studios, Nestle. Those were my MSP accounts. So I've been in the MSP world of staffing. Then moved into the healthcare space of contract staffing with healthcare nurses. So that was a good almost 15 years run. And in the last couple of years was the CEO for a startup for a healthcare staffing organization that in my first year revenued for $10 million. So proud of that accomplishment, and has now moved on to doing AI really in the marketing space. And there's so much about marketing that mine is very niche down to really how are you getting exposed to AI, meaning are you getting recommended? Are you might mentioned or cited by, when I say AI, we're talking about LLMs as well, ChatGPT, Perplexity, all those things. And so if you think about it, if you type in some searches, is your company going to show up as a recommended or as just a name even? Just a mention of a name is going to be critical for AI. So that's the space I'm in. So it's called AEO, Answer Engine Optimization. So visibility right now is what Shira's saying with the glass house from the inside out, outside to in, is that one of the things that we're going to be talking about is if you are a recruiter or a company that's hiring, right? You have all these wonderful things that, why do you want to work for us? This is why you should work for us, right? We're going to dive deep into this a little bit. Is that what really the people that are inside working feel or experiencing?
Right.
And that's where the glass house can basically penetrate. If you look at a prism or a light that goes through the house, it's a prism that should shine through and be able to kind of either open up and they'll see what's in the inside, based on also people working in there and able to say something on the outside, which are the citation sites. And we're going to dive deep into that, where people make their comments about their employers, right? So it's more than just the employer-employee, but every culture. And with what Shira does in her 3Ps, and Shira, you want to probably talk about what your 3P means, is that's really important to help the visibility from the outside, and which is where I come from. I look at what I see in the outside, and Shira helps with the inside. So
right. And that's where we came up with the glass house inside out idea, right? I'm focused, as Daisy, as you said, thank you, is on the people, the processes and platforms, the technology. I had to come up with a third P. And then, it's all marketing. And then, and what's going on inside the organization, obviously. And Daisy, you're focused on what they're seeing on the outside, right? How that works. And so, we've known that there are always gaps in organizations, right? People have flaws, organizations have challenges. That's fine, right? That is known. But we could hide it before, right? We could have great marketing that talks about how wonderful we are. We could, have great commercials, and we could do all sorts of things and promote the businesses to make sure that isn't seen. But now they're not hidden anymore, right? I mean, the idea of what's happening, we don't just go to a website if we want to understand what that organization is about, right? My understanding is at least 37%, this is the research I've done, at least 37% of job hunters, and I would assert this is probably much higher, are using GPTs, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, like you said, all of them. I always forget the Microsoft one, Gemini. Right?
Copilot.
Copilot. What's Gemini? Who's Gemini?
Gemini is Google.
Okay, fine.
And then let me add on the AI mode, which is GEO, separate from Gemini from Google. All right, we'll talk about that later.
All of those, right, are being used every day. Now, I've noticed on my phone, I'm an Apple person, right? So I've noticed on my phone when I say to Siri, tell me whatever, it says, do you want this in Google or Safari, or do you want this in ChatGPT? So there's almost an automatic now of going to an LLM as a search engine for whatever it is that we need versus something else. And I'm not going to use the Amazon A word because it's sitting over there and I don't want it to start talking to me, although I know it's listening. But I think that what's so important there is what we used to put on our websites. We were so concerned before, right? About, do we have our mission, vision, values on our website? Are there pretty pictures of people working and going to picnics and, all these things to make people feel good about coming to work for us? Well, that's not the case anymore. We're going to dig into that a lot today. But Daisy, what are you finding? What are you seeing from an AEO perspective?
Well, based on the example the story you just mentioned, or the example you just mentioned with the A word, I also have one in here. So when they did the upgrade, immediately I noticed something different. I'm going, let me test it out, because now it actually scours the web, right? But it's also got, so the way it will come back to you is based on citation sites, meaning do you have rankings, ratings on particular sites like Google Business, Yelp, and all those. What we use as consultants or service, you have restaurants that use Yelp, right? That's the connotation we have there, to look at reviews and all that kind of stuff. Guess what? Yelp for Business is going hard. I don't know if you've gotten phone calls from Yelp. If you want to promote your business, because it's a site that a lot of these machines or bots, such as the A word, and you got the Googles, right? And then any other where you are talking natural language to a machine will scour the web for rankings.
So Daisy, I have to say, first of all, I want to say we love the comments. So feel free. I'm not going to be like those cheesy, TikTok videos where they're cooking things and they're saying, "Tell us where you're from while I cook the soup," whatever. But I welcome all your comments, because we'd love to know who's on LinkedIn. It's one of my things for the day, is I'm annoyed with LinkedIn all over the place. And I'll say one of the things I can't stand right now is we don't know who's on. So Mark, Happy New Year, my friend. Welcome. And Gita, thank you as well. So we welcome all of the chats. But I would like to say, chime in and say, do you know what the A word is that we're talking about? I'm not going to say it because it's sitting over there. So I'm not even going to say the word because it'll go crazy, but we'll get that going. So Daisy, it's interesting, right? Talk to us about what AI is gathering. Like, let's get to the foundation of this, right? Hey, Alan. I'm sorry, I just had to say hi to the person I've known the longest on this planet, other than my parents. And we're only 24 years old, so it's amazing. Okay, go ahead.
So Shira, I see Mark has a question. Has this started? So Mark,
was that a joke, Mark? I hope that's a joke. I really do. I really hope that's a joke.
Kay, can you see us? Can you hear us? I want to make sure. Oh, she's okay. Alexa.
Yay. Okay. I think Mark is being funny. Okay, good. So let's talk about, what does it mean about really gathering this information? What's happening? I mean, just at a foundation level, right? And why is this so important right now as we think about who we are inside our organizations and how we are being perceived and what information is getting out there?
Yes. So you're asking me.
I'm asking you.
The comments. Sorry, I'm human. I get distracted. It's like a unicorn just came by. I always, and then we have all these pretty colors on our background.
No.
Anyway, how is this affecting us right now? Clearly, AI will look for something digital to find you, right? That's the idea. And so if you have a billboard that talks about you, or how big that billboard is, no matter how pretty that is, but if you don't have digital visibility, AI is not going to recommend you.
But okay, I get that, right? If I have a website, I've got a website.
Mm-hmm. So you can have a website. It's there. Right. It exists. Right. But does it have the content that AI is going to recommend to a human when a human asks a specific question? And that's happened to be, let's say it's in the space that you're in. So let's just say it's HR technology sales, right?
Okay. Not what I do.
If it's you should have your website. Now, my next question to a client is, do you have the schemas on your back end of your website? What the schema means is that, does it know that basically a schema is like, I want to call it, it's like a billboard in the digital space that go, hey, I'm here. I'm Shira. I have offered these services to the human that's asking about how to improve your processes internally.
Okay.
Right? And so it sees that billboard and it goes, okay, she just got a billboard. It will try to crawl to your space, but each of your sections of your website need to address an answer that that human is asking about. It will also look at is your service match what this human is looking for? What is your background?
Okay.
And what services are you offering that is human that I can recommend you to this human? Do you have enough rankings or ratings if you do need one, if you don't, you're not established? If your website is fairly new, it could flag you as a caution, not because you are a scam, which has happened to me. Okay, so
Right.
this is real examples. You're not a scam, but it's just cautious about the longevity of how long your business has existed in the digital space. So this is kind of like if you look at it in the SEO side of things, the longer you have your website on the SEO on the browser side, the more you're going to be pulled to the supposed to be the first few pages, but we all know that people pay the first 5 pages and you can't be organically be seen if you don't pay. So the difference between the two is that you have to go through layers of pages on the browser side, which you can still do organically if you don't have no competition or nobody's paying. But on the AI side, you have to at least rank on the top 3, because depending on the LLM you're using, it will only give you 2 or 3 recommendations. Then their follow-up question, do you want more? Because I can narrow down the search more to something more specific.
So that's just about a website. And we're going to do another chat in the future about the details of that, right? The meat of how to be better in your own website. But that's one thing, right? When AI is going out there and looking, it's not just looking. If I say, give me the best company out there that does AEO optimization, it's not just looking for websites that say that, right?
No.
I'm looking to go work for a company and I ask ChatGPT, what do you know about this company? It's not just going to that website now and saying, oh, here's their mission, vision, values. Here's their pretty picnic picture, right?
Yeah.
What else is it going? I think most people know this now, but I don't want to assume what.
Well, it's going to look for there's 4 core principles that all the LLMs kind of use. They use different terminologies for it. It's based out of Google, how Google vets its recommendations from the browser side. It's EAT. It's basically your expertise, your experience, your authority, and your trustworthiness. Trustworthiness is key. It means authenticity, that you're telling the truth and then not relying on AI. AI can amplify what you've done or your experience, but these are the 4 key principles that they use. Each LLM uses the same kind of principles, but and have some subsets to it.
So if I were going to go to work for Walt Disney World, okay, I wanted to work at Walt Disney World, and I said, ChatGPT, I got this great job opportunity at Walt Disney World. Tell me about what it is to work at Walt Disney World. So how do I know that that's what they're telling me is true? First of all, you talk about authenticity, and I can talk about that every day. But what is the AI telling us?
So AI is going to look at your offerings as it is on your website. So it's going to talk about the wonderful things and benefits that the Disney World has, right? And then it will try and go, okay, these are the things that the company is saying. Now, do they have external reviews, either from employees, from other sites, or Google Business, Yelp, Glassdoor, whatever other citation sites are out there? In this case, obviously Disney's bigger, so they probably have a Wikipedia page that will also talk about that. It also will go through, let's say, there's some reviews in Reddit. Right, so that's one topic we're going to talk about. Yep. And then, so in this particular one, because it is a tourism, so there's going to be a lot of review sites.
Oh, right. Okay. Right.
So immediately the AI will scour every possible site that says Disney, ratings, ranks, whatever it is, and then consolidate all that information and give you the best possible answer why they're better than this, why Disney World's better than Universal Studios, let's say, right? in particular sense.
Right,
so it will kind of do that comparison as to why, and then it will lay out why, pros and cons, caution. AI will kind of vet that all for you, versus in the regular world, you have to click, and make your own decision and assumptions.
Well, that's it.
Yeah. So it's a longer process to make a decision, versus AI is giving you 3 options to make a decision quickly. So which means if you're also marketing, they're going to make a decision whether your company meets those criteria out of the 3 that they show.
Right. So again, we kind of think about, that's why we came up with this glass house idea, right? Nothing is hidden anymore, right? Everything that, and I, teeing you up for this, but everything that we want to know is available. I will say, caution, we don't know that they're telling the truth.
Yes.
And these LLMs, and I had a story, I think we may have even talked about it on our last chat, but you and I have talked about this many times. There's a very famous story that's circulating out there about a man who had a picture that was allegedly a very famous picture from a concentration camp survivor leaving one of the camps. And the picture that he gave the LLM was of one prisoner with the other one on his back. And they're walking out of the gates. And there are all of these soldiers around because it had just been liberated. And he said, I've never seen this picture before. Is this real? And I'm not going to go into the whole thing because the article is fairly long, but the net of it is that he asked the LLM, I think it was ChatGPT, 12 times, prove to me that this is a real picture. And every single time, let's just assume it's Chat, or the LLM came back and said, oh no, it was published here, it was here, it was here. He knew it was fake. He said, show me that gate. Show me a picture of that gate. And when the LLM brought up the picture, it wasn't the same thing. And he said, but look, it's wrong. So the fact that it doesn't always tell us the truth is kind of the flip side to what we used to, we were in a little more of a vacuum before, right? Mm-hmm. We could only go by what we could see. If ancestry time, whatever, we didn't even have websites, right? I don't know what we did to look for jobs, or maybe we didn't care. We asked our friends and they said it's a good place and you went, right?
It was called a newspaper.
Oh, right. I forgot about this. Yeah.
Or you circled the job or highlighted the job.
I mean, I think it's either Forbes or Fortune. Many of the magazines have the top companies in the world, in America to work for, right? These are the best companies and they rate them and they do that. That's a little pay to play, but we're not going to have that conversation. But that was how we knew everything. We're now completely on the opposite end of it, where we have all this information and we need to be careful, right? Especially when there's so much information out there. Not only do we not know what others are putting out there, because is that validated? Is that true? If I go on Glassdoor and I do a scathing review of a company I worked for and because I was fired or I hated it, is that true? Can we rest on that? Right? I don't think we can be lazy in the way that we do the research and we look at everything. Hi, Terry. Yeah. Sorry, just had to say hi to Terry. So I think it's really incredible in such a relatively short period of time, going from almost no information or information that the companies wanted us to have about them to now everything, right? We can't hide anymore. The reputation of a company is out there, whether we like it or not, right? And I know there are companies out there. A very dear friend of mine actually is her business is getting information off the internet. That's what she does, right? If a company says this is wrong, you need to get it off of here. I would think that companies are doing that too now. I don't know if you know the answer to this, really. I don't want to put you on the spot, but if it's in an LLM, if the data's in the LLM already, does it come out if it's taken out of circulation, so to speak?
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody knows.
So if it's already in there, it's already in there. Now, reputation management, that's what a couple of my clients came to me for, is that I had this thing that's been lingering. I can't change it because it's a government site. You know what I mean? I tried to call them. It's basically with the DOJ. And she was falsely accused, but the article is still there showing that she was guilty, even though she has the documentation from the courts that it says that she was innocent. Okay. So there comes what's out there is already out there. How do you not actually hiding it because you know your truth, you know you're real. So how do you then now fix that reputation, right? With regular browser, you just click and it's just going to be there, right? Okay. When you do AI, it allows you to speak about your truth and say something, let's say on your website, not necessarily, you could address it directly. Hey, if you see this link on, while you're searching for me, it is there. It was an incident, but here you have to also be, if you're exposing something as your truth, she was willing to show that it shows that she's innocent in a screenshot for her website. You know what I mean?
Right.
So two things. I said, we can go that route, or we can just keep putting all the good things that you're doing now. It's been now 8 years and it's still kind of showing up on a ranking, because the more content you have out there right now these days for AI, whether it's your YouTube or your LinkedIn, people
Right.
see that. And if you actually type in a search, and we'll do this, and we'll do some practical exercises on some of our episodes where I'll have our viewers kind of type in something and they'll be surprised what they see, is that the more content you put out there about your expertise and your knowledge, AI is now going to see that, and it's going to basically put that link that is mentioned lower and lower and lower and lower. And an AI then will now not just forget about it, but it will now look at what's current and what matters to what the human is asking, versus focusing on that one thing. If the human asks for more questions,
Right.
then we can redirect them. They'll go to the website, or they have to make a decision. Humans could still have to make that decision. Doesn't matter how much we try to move that information or
Right.
even remove it, or it will still be found. And that whether it's there or not, the human still needs to bond or make that connection so that they can purchase your service or want to work with you. So it doesn't matter what's there. It's still your authentic self today and how you communicate.
So that is the perfect segue into what we're calling the outside story in. It's a segment we're going to do probably every week, unless we have something too exciting that we can't do it. But the idea is that we're going to look into the real world and we're going to find the outside story in. And you teed this up. I don't even think you realized you did it because it was so beautiful, but you teed this up so perfectly because I went and did some research for our first episode, and I wanted to find something ironic, truth be told. And I went out to Reddit because Reddit is a place where a lot of this information is, right? I wanted it to be more democratic, let's say, right? Rather than a Glassdoor or something, I wanted it to be on Reddit and kind of open-ended. And so I went on a search and I found ironically, it pointed me back to Glassdoor for a review that was done on Reddit in Glassdoor. Now, interestingly enough, I'm going to read this and we'll put it up on the screen. It was a review. Oh, thank you very much. It was a review of this, and I'll read it in case it's too small for anyone to see on the screen. But it is, I think, from 7 years ago or 8 years ago. So it is a long time ago, right? To your point, Daisy, this isn't new, right? This isn't last week. But it's still out there. And I'll say this, I don't know many people who actually check those things, even though the date is, you can see, very front and center. From 7 years ago, I don't know that people necessarily would look. But let me just read this carefully because it's titled Toxic Beware, Anonymous Employee Reddit Employee Review. Okay. Some good things, they said. The pros, they have pet care. It's the only pro that this person could come up with is they had pet care. The cons. There is no accountability with the executive team or leadership team. It seems every time it's time to do reviews, it's also time for a reorg, making it nearly impossible for anyone to give an honest assessment of their manager. Reorgs are also a way for the exec team to push people out of the company who challenge them with thought-provoking ideas. Worst thing of my 2 years at Reddit was watching how the women engineers and product managers were treated. The people team might talk at conferences about how much they support women, parents, diversity, but behind the door at Reddit, it's a whole different reality. Moms and dads are reorged right out of the company after they return from paternity and maternity leave. Wow. That is scathing. Is it true? I don't know. But it's pretty bad. The crazy thing about this review, because there's lots of awful reviews out there, but the crazy part of this for me was the very first response that I saw, because this was unbelievable. And the very first response came from the actual VP. I think her title was VP of Culture or something, I'm not sure. And you can see how long it is. I'm not going to read this whole thing. If you want it, I'll be happy to share the link with anybody who wants to see this, or you can actually Google it. I will tell you, I looked her up on LinkedIn. She's no longer with Reddit. She left and she went into a different role very shortly after this posted in Reddit, and then left and is now doing something entirely different, which who knows why? I have no idea. Maybe she got Reddit money and did something else because now she's in investing or something, but it was really interesting. But she started off by saying, this is not representative of Reddit's culture in any of our offices, the example set by our execs, or our values as a company. The review is simply not fair or an honest assessment of the company that would line up with the experience of the overwhelming majority of other employees. We absolutely support our snooze, I don't know what that is, with kids, and have consistently extended our parental leave year after year. And she goes on and on and on. Now, what else is she going to say? I was a little surprised that she put that out there, but I guess she had to respond to it. But there were others. There were other comments that I saw, and I'm just going to throw a few of these up here really quickly. Here's one. I'm just going to say, other reviews have it right. Leadership is cliquey. There was one. Another one said inauthentic culture, right? So there are a lot of these things here. There was another one that I saw that I thought was really powerful. These are all out there, right? All of these comments are it didn't take me long to find this, right? So what does that mean then when we think about what's happening in our companies, right? What's happening with how we manage our companies, right? So in my role, if I were involved with Reddit, I'd love to be involved in Reddit, happy to be involved with Reddit, right? As a client. But if I were involved with Reddit, I would look inside before I look to deal with it from the outside. Maybe simultaneously, but there's clearly something going on inside that somebody got that far down the path that an executive is saying that's so far from our reality, and this person felt that way, right? That means that what they're saying is embedded, meaning these are our policies, this is what we're telling people we're doing, that's not embodied in who they are. That's clearly, for this person and for the others who commented similar things, that's not who they are. So from the inside, from their processes and from their people, that's a critical reason to figure out what's going on and start looking at what they're doing and why they're doing it this way. That's how I would look at it.
Very good point. Mark, there's a couple of comments here about, it's a person's own opinion. It's their reality. It's their truth to them, right? Yep. And so, and that's what's cool and not cool, I guess, about being able to express yourself freely, right. And give your opinion, so you can be heard, or the other people. Also, if you look at it from an insider's or an employer's perspective, it should help them realize how people perceive us as an employer. Right. Are we actually listening to it, or am I such if you're in a tower as an executive, that I don't know the reality of the masses, basically, of your employees and what they go through on a daily basis. Right. So this is where, again, yes, it is opinion, personal, truth or not, we don't know. Both have each sides. Right. But there's definitely, what to your point is, there's a misalignment and there's a gap. Because if for this person to go deep into that topic and really break it down, means there's something in the core that clearly somebody that when you're in a work environment, you are going to bond with somebody that feels the same way. Otherwise, it's just your own opinion, and you can probably want to keep it to yourself, because people are going to go, I don't feel that way, which means that there's some bonding going on about a particular topic, and it's just escalating to something. That's why this person wrote something about it. So, this is where it's going to be critical for how employers really need to take it seriously. So again, not just from the outside looking in, that's why they heard this. Internally, Shiran, from your experience, right? You always want to remind your folks, not just HR, but your executives, to do that's why we have employee surveys.
Well, Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? It's so great to get the information. The question is, what are you going to do about it,
Correct.
right? And
And do you
so
actually act on it to make it
and
better?
act exactly, right? So, I'm reading, Mark. Thank you for all your wonderful comments. We don't know. We don't know that there are two sides. I always say there are three sides to every story. One side, the other side, and then somewhere in the truth, right? Is the truth. Because perception is reality. This person clearly perceived something. The others who made those comments perceived something about what they experienced in this organization. There is no company that doesn't have people that are unhappy for something. That's life, right? Nobody runs around in la la land all the time. I think what struck me with this one was how extreme it was, right? And we don't know what happened. It's an anonymous person and we don't know the story. We can make assumptions based on everything. And this VP immediately chimed in and started having that conversation. To your point, what was done about it, right? Was there follow-up internally? Was there a big conversation at an executive level first to say, wait a second, this is not great. We don't want this reputation. Now, let me preface this by saying they may not care. A company doesn't have to care. There was a restaurant. This is so funny. There was a restaurant in Boston, Legal Seafood. It was the best. It had the best seafood. Yeah, it was great. And their motto, and I'm going to get this wrong, so if anyone's from New England and knows this, was something like, we don't care about the service, or the service is terrible, and it was kind of a little bit of a shticky, jokey thing. The service was terrible, but the food was great. And that was their thing, right? That the service comes last, or I don't know, something like that. We could probably look it up on ChatGPT and find out what it was. But there are companies that don't care. Truly, we don't care about how our people are treated. We don't care what that means. Okay, great. For those who do, and I would venture to say it's probably 95 or plus % of companies do care about how they treat their employees. I certainly hope that's true. That immediately to me signifies a red flag, a blazing red flag. It's not just, oh, this company stinks. Oh, I didn't like working there. They were mean to me. This is pretty specific and this is pretty extreme, along with the other comments, to say, let's have a conversation at an executive level, and then let's do the work to make sure that we are doing a significant turnaround in the way that we treat people, and more importantly, in the way that is perceived. How are people perceiving the way that this company is treating them and how they're engaging with them? And I've seen it over and over and over again, right? It doesn't take much.
Mm-hmm.
The statistics are really incredible. Unless someone is at a very, very, very low paying job, we're talking minimum wage job, because at that level or slightly above minimum wage, a pay rise is significant, right? The less someone makes, the percentage of per se rise is different, right? I had a client years ago that was in the retail, let's call them retail business, and they paid minimum wage. And people would very excitingly start the job, and at lunch they would get an offer from another store down the street for 50 cents more, and they were gone. They never came back, right? Because 50 cents an hour was significant to them. For most people that are not in that situation, unless the money is huge, game-changing huge, people don't leave because of money. People leave because of their managers. People leave because of the way they feel when they're working there. And that's where companies are getting exposed in AI, because this information is now coming out. People are able to put that out there, not just in Glassdoor, although this is one that I happen to find, but we have lots that we're going to show in future episodes of where those insides are being exposed in so many ways, not on the sites we think we need to go to, right? People have podcasts. People have their own websites. People have Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and all of these places that they can put information that I would think the LLMs can find, right?
Yep. Absolutely. So not just that, Shira, especially internally is basically why people are talking in the outside, like in this example, right, for this employee.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, sorry, I'm looking at the side of my eye because we have a major delay from us talking to what is live, I think. Anyway, I see the corner of my eye. Anyway, so it kind of distracted me a little bit. So think about it this way. You're inside, this employee wouldn't have said anything if things were okay in the inside, right? And
Okay.
so it's always starts from what you live in is what you're going to tell the story about on the
Right.
outside.
Right.
So companies really need to look at if somebody is saying even the slightest thing about what's going on in your company or how they feel. If you mentioned the word feel, what we
Mhm.
say versus how we feel are two different things,
Right.
right?
Right.
So they're feeling something, they're talking about it. And so internally, clients need to go, oh, they're feeling something, which means there's something in here that we're doing that's making them feel weird, happy,
Mhm.
uncomfortable, whatever it is. So most companies will try and just mask the outside, just like, what this VP did is like, I wrote this really long response, right? To hopefully change the feeling of what people read about this review.
Right. But do people
So
really read the follow-ups?
probably not, but
Right.
it's already embedded that there's something wrong with Reddit and their culture.
Correct. And that's
So
the
what
challenge.
do they do next? Internally fix what that gap is,
Correct.
then put in something in the outside that helps fix that damage or that reputation. And
Right.
that's where that if you're fixing something, it should now, that prism in the glass that I was talking about earlier
Yeah.
should be able to penetrate through, like it's just the rainbow, that everything is aligned, basically, is the main thing.
So I love what you said earlier, and we're going to do throughout many of our episodes, we're going to have an opportunity to actually do some fun stuff with AI and give everybody a chance. I was at a conference, not a conference, at a presentation a number of months ago, and one of the people that was speaking started talking about AI and said something about, have you ever, asked ChatGPT, what do you know about me? And I didn't do it then. I'm doing it sort of now, but not doing it now because we only have about 15 minutes to go. And I don't want everybody to get completely distracted. This is not a squirrel moment, because it was for every single one of us sitting in the room, all 200 of us sitting in the room, all grabbed our phones and went to our chat GPTs, and nobody remembers anything else. But it is fascinating to see. And I use a number of LLMs, and I did it when I went home that night. I did it on different ones because all of them know me a little bit differently. Because I do sometimes more work in Claude, I do other different kinds of work in ChatGPT. So it becomes very interesting to see what's out there. I will reincarnate Darren for just a moment, and say, because he used to say this all the time, that if you are, I believe it's still true, if you're using a free site of any of the LLMs, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
you don't have any control over your data, so whatever you're putting in them, correct?
That's correct. So if you're actually going to do a search, and for some people that are probably going to go, oh, I want to do my own search, please don't do it on your LLM that you're logged into that knows everything about your information. And I teach this in my cohorts, in my one-on-ones for AEO, and my clients, is that do incognito or private mode in
Oh, I didn't
your,
do that.
okay. And also within your incognito, please clear your cache or clear anything. It allows you to do that. So it also doesn't remember, if you were incognito before, it doesn't remember any of your searches. So
Right.
you can still type in ChatGPT, and we'll do this examples. You guys are going to be blown away when we do examples.
You'll have
Put
yeah.
go into ChatGPT, don't log in. There's a free version. You're probably allowed 3 or 4 questions for free without logging in. Put in your search, put in whatever prompt you want to do to look for yourself, and then open up another tab, then go Perplexity, use the same exact prompt in that
Mhm.
incognito mode, and that should give you a truer review or a truer answer. And then you're going to see that some of them might know you, some of you won't exist, even though you think you do. Some might know you a little bit, but even if your name is mentioned, does it talk about you and what you're offering and why you would be recommended? There's one thing that your name is mentioned. An example for me, and I'll show this later on, is that in one of the episodes, is that it mentioned my name, but it didn't know
Mhm.
what the heck I did and why I am in AEO.
That's useful.
So that's, you might be excited, my name is mentioned, but it doesn't really talk about me and why I could be of service to you and why I should be recommended. So in AEO, you have to kind of build your entity and your credibility, but it's more coming from organically about who you are and what you provided to the world or to us as your service. So anyway, it's a long thing that we do. So it's everything comes from your truth. And
I
I
love
think
that.
a lot of them, and being human, and somebody said, I always use this term, human in the loop. AI is there, but AI gives us input, and
Yeah.
we take that as an output. And as a human, we act on it.
Mm.
AI, we can automate stuff, but even doing that, the human needs to connect the two machines, right? To be able to get to the automation. So the human is always involved in every conduit or node, as we see them all now, um, to AI, which is our LLMs and all the other automations that we have. So humans are always going to be important, and humans are needed to act on what we get from AI.
I love that. A very dear friend of mine, if you all want to follow him on LinkedIn, he's a lot of fun to follow and has so much great advice. His name is Roy Green. He spent many, many years as a copywriter. He and I worked together about 7 years ago. I adore him. He's wonderful. And he posted something today, and I didn't have time, unfortunately, to put it up here, but I will share it with anyone. If send me a message, DM me, whatever, I'll point you to his post. But he did years of copywriting. And he talks about AI and again, what we talked about in our last podcast is humans are still valuable, right? And so the idea that AI is taking away all the jobs and everybody's going away and we're going to all be useless. And he said, as a copywriter, he'd sit there sweating. I'm paraphrasing. Where do I find the words? What am I going to write about? And now everybody thinks you go to ChatGPT, boom, it'll produce everything, right? It's just a copywriter isn't needed anymore. But what you said is what he said in context. There is a human element to it, right? First of all, it needs to have context for what it is. A human, first of all, has to prompt the GPT to do anything to begin with. It doesn't do it on its own yet. And except that A thing over there. And it doesn't understand the nuance. It doesn't understand. Another friend of mine, who I don't know if he's on here, but my friend James Bandies used to always say, and this is way back. Oh my gosh, I just remember this crazy story. I'll save it for another time. If you say the word turkey, what do you mean? Do you mean the country? Do you mean the animal? Do you mean the sandwich? What do you mean? Right? So that's the point, right? And it doesn't know tone. It doesn't know inflection. It doesn't know emotion. And for those of us who have had this happen, where ChatGPT likes to tell you how terrific you are all the time and likes to tell you how wonderful all your ideas are and everything you say is the greatest thing in the whole world, and then people believe it, that's the problem in all of this, right? We have to get clear in ourselves, in our companies, in what we know, right? We have to understand, we have to do the work, right? We have to really, I call it the clarity check. I call it understanding what's going on from a business perspective, what's going on in our organizations, around our people, our processes, our platforms. Where are we? I'll put it up here. I have a little 3-minute, just kind of take 3 minutes. And if you own a company or you're a leader in the company, you can do this clarity check and just get some ideas. And I'm happy to talk to anybody about it and what they find. I think there's a QR code we can put up here, and there it is. Oh, how cute. And, just have a chance to kind of understand what's happening inside your organization, take a pulse on what's going on, right? And what is it that you really want to change, and how do you make everything better? It's so simple, and it's so difficult, and it's so worth it, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's where, if you want to know where your company stands, if you want to know, to your point, where your presence in the world of AI stands today, that is how you can and understand. Daisy, I think they can talk to you about that. Where
Mhm.
are they? And we'll have exercises and ways so come back every week. And understand where you are in that respect and what's happening, I think is really, really valuable to understand how to do that. I think it's critical.
And really, AI also in this space of AI on the marketing side is about rebranding.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. So think about professional services, lawyers, accountants. Most of them are old school, traditional. They might have had their website for the last 10, 20 years, even,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
With the basic information, they change maybe a picture once in a while. They change the bottom of the date, the year that the website is being updated, but
Change
have
the
they
pictures.
really put something significant in there? Meaning, do they have blogs? Do they talk about the conventions that they've attended where they've increased their knowledge in their space or industry? Or do you have the top information about technology on how you're going to, as an accountant, do you know the latest tax laws that's going to benefit businesses or whatever your niche is, right? Are you talking about that so that your client knows that you're going to give them the best possible deductible that is available to them, right? Unless that's where people are going to start looking for things.
Right.
And if they ask AI for a particular question, they're going to look at, is my accountant actually have that? Guess what? They're going to check on you.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So if your website hasn't been touched at all, even for a change of address for the last 10 years, even though you have been in existence for 35 years and the whole town knows you and 3 towns over knows you.
Yeah.
It's only people that know you, but people that are searching that it's not in your circle, you don't exist.
Yeah.
That business card you're handing out on networks without a website, or even if the website's there and it doesn't talk about your service, you do not exist. So I always ask.
People don't have business cards?
Believe it or not, there are still some.
I did a little QR code thing, the little.
So when I talk to people in networking, they'll say, "What do you do?" And I'll say, "Well, let me ask you a question. Does AI know your business exists?"
Right.
They'll go, "What do you mean?" Right. Think about that. Yeah. Come back to me if you know if they exist or not. Then I'll tell you.
Right.
So it's really the bottom line.
I am so excited we're doing this. This hour has flown by. I have to do a shout out. Linda, oh my gosh, my old friend, how are you? Oh my gosh, we have to catch up. So I'm going to find you. Let's set up something. I welcome anyone who wants to talk more about this with either one of us to reach out to us. Obviously, if you're here on LinkedIn, you know how to find us. DM us. Is that what you say now? Is that what the kids are saying? DM, message me, do whatever. I don't know. I don't know what the words are. But message us, reach out to us. Few little housekeeping notes. Number one, as I said in the beginning, if you want to be on the podcast, chat, whatever it's called, we welcome it. We would love to have you join us for one of our episodes and be our guest and chat with us. It would be really wonderful for something. We're going to do this. We're going to be back next week at the same time. Another one of my LinkedIn problems is that I don't know how many more invitations I can send out after today because they give you a limit because they don't want you to spam people. So I will try to invite everybody who's on today. I will try to get more out, but we will post every day and make sure that it's available and there's posts about it, and you know where to find us. We do have something very, very exciting to announce. We are launching the Glass House Workshop. The first one starts starts this coming Tuesday. Oh my gosh, this coming Tuesday. And we in 6 days, and we are offering a New Year's special. So this workshop is normally $788. It is 4 sessions, 90 minutes each, 4 weeks in a row, starting next Tuesday. We do have a couple of spots left if you're interested, and we are doing a New Year's special at $288. So we have I believe a QR code for this that we can put up there, and it'll take you to the site and you can register. Until Friday, we are giving the discount, and it's going to be really exciting. This one is, in fairness, this one is really geared towards small business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and we're going to do some really great work around a lot of the stuff we talked about today, how your business is seen, and we're going to also help people set up their businesses from that perspective as well. So we're really excited about this, and we're going to be doing lots of other workshops. If there's something particular you're interested in, let us know and we can work something out as well. We also obviously will work one-on-one with anybody who wants to work with either of us and is interested in what we're doing. Check us on all of our socials, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Instagram. I'm not on TikTok yet. I'm sorry to say.
You don't need to be, Shira. You don't need to be on TikTok.
I'm a viewer. I'm not a doer on TikTok. And so, and we welcome your feedback, right? We really want to know what you think about this, what you want to talk about, what you're finding is critical in business today, and the inside and the outsides of your business. What are the challenges that you're seeing if you're a leader in an organization or a leader of a team? It doesn't necessarily have to be a specific organization. And Daisy, I will leave it to you for anything else you want to talk about.
No, you've covered everything. So excited about our cohort for next week.
Yeah.
It's about meant for solopreneurs, entrepreneurs. It's going to be a more intimate thing where you got some
Yeah.
homework to do. We're going to break down what you already have, your assets, digital or your sales assets, that type of stuff. Kind of give some clarity on some of your questions. It's a lot. It's going to be very interactive as opposed to
Very.
just you listening and taking notes, because we want to make sure you get the value for growing your own business and understanding what perhaps again gaps of
Yeah.
what you've if you don't have a business plan or a marketing plan, why it's important, and tools around it. And clearly we're both in AI, but ultimately really the reality, if you now that this AI, well, in our world anyway, sometimes we're all in a bubble, right? In LinkedIn or in our community and the groups that we're in, is that people don't know as much about AI. So, and a good example you brought, Shira, earlier was about how you prompt is very, very critical to output that you're also getting. So people are now exposed to putting general prompts and getting general answers, and they're happy with it. But for a real use case of growing, scaling, and all that kind of stuff, those are the things we're going to be teaching that
Yeah.
I think will add value to how you use AI and how to get the most out of the tools.
Great. Well, I want to say thank you, Daisy. I want to say to all of you, thank you for coming and joining us. Tell your friends. We'd love to have lots and lots of people. We want you to join us, and we really appreciate doing this every week and getting out in front of everyone and talking about what we're passionate about making sure that companies are thriving, that they're thriving both inside and outside of their organization, that employees, that people are thriving in the work that they're doing and they're loving what they do. And that's what brings us joy every day. So I thank you all very much. Have a wonderful Wednesday, the rest of your day and the rest of your week. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.